What is up?
Yes, sir. Sir.
Magandang gabi po sa inyong lahat.
May
Nandiyan na
mga
ba kayo?
Anyway,
Are
friends,
you?
yeah.
Are we
Friends,
there
yeah.
yet?
Yep.
Hello.
Yep.
Kumusta?
Hello, reaching from the Netherlands. Oh, the Dutch.
Ano natin? Oh, dami nila. Dami.
Netherlands Love PH.
Bumati-bati ka muna dyan saglit, ha?
Magandang gabi sa inyo dyan. Ay, kasi gumagawa ko ng parang reflection ko dun sa yung lecture sa akin kahapon. Tungkol kay Ibrahim. Ipopost
Ibrahim?
Ibrahim. Nakatulog kasi ako. Hindi ko na-post. Hindi ko natapos. Tungkol pa naman to sa Idil Fitr. Maabutan na tayo ng tapos na. Idil Adha pala.
Nakatulog ka ngayon?
Sorry. Kanina.
Kailan ka nakatulog?
Kanina. Nanonood kasi ako na. Tapos siya. Wala. Nantok. Left. Bebe. So, itong ko lang, ihabol ko lang. Para hindi naman out of...
Sige.
Ano tawag dyan yung... alam mo yung Johnny Come Lately? No?
Johnny Come Lately.
Ayan kumanta Taga-Bukid in Town.
Eagle?
Eagles.
Taga-Bukid in Town.
Taga-Bukid in Town.
Magandang gabi. Sino nandyan? Si Pinay Paparazzi. Magandang gabi. Si Myla. Good vibes. Si Haiza Kimik. Alright. Si Bridex. Try ko naman dito sa YT. Sabi niya. Good evening, attorney. Si Pinay Paparazzi. Si Carmelo. Yun na naman. Si Fujiko. Hello, magandang gabi. Si Feisty Zest 13. Si Mac Maristella. Hola. Si Rocky. May crush tayo to, JP. Si Rocky.
Rocky, good evening, Rocky.
Si Ali
Ilagay mo si Rocky dyan. Kasi hindi ko na po.
Ilagay natin. Yan. Si Ali. Si Ali. Namubola.
Sino?
What is up, Rachel? Rachel ba yun? Rachel.
Good evening sa lahat.
Si Don, New Jersey. What is up? Si Ying. Ano to si Ying? To siya? Matikas to siya. Si Angelita. Si Sel. Si Archie. Bonsoir. Taga France pala to siya. Si Marites Lucas. Hello Marites. Si Lani Arenas. What is up from Hong Kong?
Hello. Hong Kong.
No. Si Ian Darwin. Good evening sa lahat, sabi niya. Sabi ni Thuye Wilfred, shout out NCO host. Okay.
NCO host? Sino yun? Hi po, from Chicago. Yung bang band na Chicago ay taga Chicago talaga?
I think so kasi it was the name of a parang transport something. Bus company.
Chicago bus company, gano'n? Yan?
Yan yung pangalan nila. Tingnan mo, Google mo.
Oo nga napaisip ko din Good evening, Juliet and Nori. Hi. Sa inyo lahat.
Naligaw na ako. Nasaan yun? Sige, ikaw. Go ahead.
Hindi, ako magpo-post muna ako dun sa Luminous. I-share ko lang dun para
sige. Habang nagpo-post ka dyan, mapati ko muna ito sila. Si Edith. Si Editha. Si Marlene. Huli. Parang Amper yata apelido na ito sa pagkakaalala ko.
Amper? Sino?
Si
Amper, taga Cebu? Taga Cebu ba? Amper? Mga taga Cebu yung Amper
Si Amor Shagura. Okay. Si Nini Sharon. Taga Sogon din ako.
Sino? Sisay. Sisay Gangan. Sisay taga Sorsogon. Ha?
Yan.
Hindi.
Nakita mo. Ayan.
Nini Sharon. Taga Sorsogon ako. From Paris. I used to work there. for a long time. Tatawa ko
Oo.
magbigol sa...
Ako rin ba?
Taga
I used
Barcelona,
to
taga
work there.
Barcelona. Taga
Taga,
Barcelona.
taga, taga Barcelona and oy, maganda. Tingnan mo.
Oh, RK.
Hey RK,
Hello.
she's from Australia. She's a pilot, man.
Really?
That girl
My
is a
my
pilot.
my niece is a pilot too.
She's
And
awesome.
Dumaguete.
What is up, RK?
Ayun, napos ko na. Makahabol
Si
man lang, di ba?
Nori. Si
Bago
Nori.
maubos ang Eid
HK.
al-Adha.
Ito si RK, naalala ko pag nakikita ko si L eh. Si 11. Nanonood ka ba ng ano?
Good evening. 11, si ano?
Si
Si L.
L. Si 11. Naalala ko to.
Kamukha yan ni Becca.
Yeah.
Ni
Oh,
Rebecca.
right. Si
Oh.
Epi. What is this name? Taga Mindanao ka ba? Epi?
Ha? Taga Bujul. Uy, akong lulo, taga Bujul.
Ireland.
Taga Dawis. Taga Bicol.
Gandang gabi from California.
Mhm.
Si Luna.
So,
This is my friend.
padala mo ba
cousin.
sa akin yung yung sabi mo ipapadala sa akin?
Yeah. Sa
Saan? Sa Messenger?
Messenger.
Okay.
Jen Rodriguez. Kape ka kanina ba si Petang? Yung unang-una to eh. Unang-una to siya. Okay, ang topic na nilagay ko doon is just quick and short. Kamustahan kasi hectic bukas. So, di tayo
Bakit hectic?
magpapakadalupasa ayan ng puro
Ay,
katarantaduan.
Sunday. It's a very light day.
Oo, maikli lang para makapagpahinga ang lahat. Yep.
Ay, Michigan, ha? Sa Michigan, meron na ba kayong Kumusta na ba yung dyan sa Michigan?
Rokita, kababayan mo to, sir.
Kinsa man. Mep, duhay lungsod. Basta duhay lungsod. Basta taga Rokita, duhagi lungsod kay ang
Duha
lungsod
dyan
sa
na
Rokita. Ang lungsod sa Rokita kay dili man lungsod.
Ha? Dili na siya lungsod.
Mo nang dito na speakers lungsod kay may ayo gyud way na man si. Way ko saban.
What is up, Glenda?
Mhm.
Dami pala nila,
Vancouver. Okay, so okay,
Wimbledon.
Okay. All right. So let's
Okay,
start.
all right.
Let's get rolling.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ikaw ang
Alright.
ito.
Okay, kasi nag-trending uli si
Teka. Break.
Break.
Tingnan natin ng konting introduction tong mga kaibigan natin. Kami ni Ahmed,
Alright.
we never talk about our topics. Okay, so if
No, never.
okay, if we seem like we are really talking to each other, because we are.
Because we are
Huh?
talking to each other.
Yeah, because we're
Because-
hearing these things for the first time
For the
from each
first
other.
time. Consider this, pag kami ni JP, pag pumupunta kami sa tambayan, and anywhere that we appear together, discussing something,
Wala kaming pinagpaplanuhan.
it's just like nag-uusap kaming dalawa dito sa shop at nanonood lang kayo.
Okay?
That's what's going on.
So,
We don't know this, we don't plan this and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
So
kung
everything we
nagkaka-leche
say
kami
is
dito,
from the top of our minds. Okay? We analyze things right then and there.
kung ngayon ko lang pinaalala yun, ng ginagawa natin.
Kaya ako
Sa-
minsan,
Para naman no?
kaya ako
Go ahead.
minsan, pag may natututunan ako maganda, pinupost ko. Hindi yun parang scripted. No. I really learned something. Okay? So, katulad ngayon, I posted yung aking natutunan about Eid al-Adha. I was be humbled not knowing that it was about Abraham and Jacob. Which I thought for the longest time was about yung tungkol sa alam mo yun, yung mga prayers nila at saka yung mga minor feasts like the feasts we celebrate about saints or the lives of their prophets maybe. So I didn't know that it was biblically based, and second, it is about honoring the virtue of sacrifice, diba? Which is not covered in any government priority. Di ba? So, yun. So anyway, just read that in my post later if you have time. But it's just my reflection. Thanks, Ahmed. And you guys, kasi you all help, no? Hindi ko nga alam sino yung tinutukoy na this. Anyway, so kasaysayan ba pag-usapan natin na ano? Kasi yan?
Okay. Yeah. Kasaysayan din naman kasi yun.
Okay.
The things that are written in the Bible is also a form of history. Kasi
Mm.
yung history is just a record of past events. Okay?
Mhm.
Record of past events. But it does not stop there. Because when we say record, we there is a there is a presumption there that somebody recorded it. Okay?
Mhm.
Now, in this act of recording, okay, either you have a mechanical recording, which can be found in deposits of things
Footages.
in rock face or in a ano ang tawag dun sa amber sap ganyan. That is history,
Amber.
and that part is natural history. When you watch National Geographic and Discovery and all that, that is natural history. Natural history. History, as we know it, is
Mhm.
a record of past events
Mhm.
about human beings.
Or maybe
Diba?
things.
Things and
In like
in
the
relation
environment.
to human beings. Okay, in
Uh,
relation to human beings. Kasi
mhm.
kung pagdating sa history in relation to human beings, you can expect that it is written, observed, and written, and analyzed, and
By
interpreted by human being. So you
okay.
cannot find a human history that is recorded by nature. Well, unless it's not kasi recorded by nature. Eh. Kasi yung mga tao sa Vesuvius, for example,
Mhm.
nung sumabog yung Vesuvius, there's the Herculaneum and what's the other one?
Haha.
These
Ay,
two cities together.
i-debunk ko si Ahmed mamaya. Sige, sige, continue.
Mm.
I will argue with that
Debunk ko lang.
statement.
Debunk ko lang.
Yeah, I will
Kasi,
argue with that statement.
kasi yung sumabog yung Vesuvius, yung dalawang
Mhm.
Napolitano, Naples.
Mm.
Naples, I think, yeah, that's Naples and Vesuvius and
Mhm.
Herculaneum. Sumabog yon. May mga taong nalibing doon.
Mm.
But that is not what we call human history.
Mm.
That is natural history. That is part of what happened to Vesuvius, including the animals there, and humans are animals as well. So it's considered natural history, but history as a written subject, ano bang, as a written discipline, okay,
Mhm.
of study and research and ano,
Mhm.
is always written by human beings. So the earliest, I think, was Herodotus and Thucydides and all of these people that came from Greece, if I remember right, my history.
Mhm.
Okay, and these people they wrote accounts of past events. Okay, but there it is. Kasi pag nakikita mo na if you focus on history is a twofold thing. One is a record of events, and second is a record of events in relation to human beings. Kung record of events lang, ay you can very well say now anything that is a record of it, like including natural history, is also history. But when we
Mhm.
talk about the history as a development or the evolution of how societies um, progressed and wars and all that, every story that is related to humans and their evolution in communities of humans and societies and what happens to them and even if they have been extinct, they have become extinct, eh, kasama pa rin yan sila sa history. Kahit na wala na nga sila ngayon, ay
Mhm.
kasama pa rin sila sa history. So, history may be about human beings and their societies um, that are still existing until now. But history is also about human beings and their communities that are not existing anymore. Okay?
Mhm.
Yun yung paningin natin dyan. Okay.
Yes. So you mean
But,
if any group of people happen to pass by the events that affected them without anyone seeing the need of recording it, they will
mm,
forever lose their history.
well, that part of, yun nga eh, because
Kung
when we
walang
say
nagsulat, kung
history,
walang nagsulat about it, kung walang gumawa ng any attempt to
sumulat about it.
no to record it, okay? Let's say for
Yeah.
example ngayon, kasi we're already in the modern times, recording can happen without anyone really writing it down, but let's say for example may CCTV dyan. So there is a human being responsible for placing that camera there and it's recording. Kunwari, di ba? But okay, so if there is no recording whatsoever, can we say that that part of that event or that slice of time is not
Didn't happen.
is not part of history?
No, it's part of history because it's time is a continuum. You can't have it. You can't have a record of it where
Uh-huh.
there are spaces that are vacuous or
Mm-hmm.
empty or completely uh,
Mm-hmm.
um, you know containing nothing. Okay, so
Okay.
when we say events, list of past events, whether or not there was a person that experienced it is falls under the second characteristic of history, which is the history of about human beings. Now, if it is not recorded,
It
it
does
may
not
as
exist.
well hindi pwede natin sabihin na it did not exist because it can be discovered later on
Okay.
by other things like
But I would answer myself, yes. Because sabi nga ni Engineer Amoyo sa akin, ano? Yung nanonood man si Engineer
sino yan?
Amoyo.
Sino
Yung
yan siya?
isang project manager sa isang project before where we were supplying them with mga materials. So
Mm.
yung engineer always reminded me, bata pa ako na ano eh, what is not written does not exist. So kung hindi mo pinapirmahan sa akin yan, delivery receipt mo,
That is
hindi mo
correct.
babayaran yan. Di ba? But,
That is correct.
okay, and it is an unfortunate fact about history that not all incidents and not all events that happens to human beings are recorded.
Precisely
Okay?
because
Because,
si
mm,
okay, sige, go ahead. Tuloy ka
because
muna.
for me, it the it is just our privilege, the people who are now in the present, to have materials to use or information that can be used to look back in time, because time is never been supposed to be uh, uh, kumbaga, it is not our right to have that window backwards towards time. Okay?
Yes.
We must take that as a fact of nature, a fact of life. Because otherwise, dapat, sana yung ating time is movable. Pwede kang tumingin sa likod, pwede kang tumingin sa harap. Di ba? But it is the nature of events to happen within as a particular space and a particular time. And once that time and space elapse, that event is
It's
no
done.
longer part of reality and it's already in the figment of your imagination now. And for people in the present who want to know things from the past, these recordings that were made by people who witnessed it or directly recording the events are just accidental benefits or privileges of peeking into past events, di ba? And That's why they are so valuable, because these things will never happen again in the same time and space. So the fact that people wrote about it is something that we must see value. Kasi like right now, nobody's making a history about us, except that this video will continue
Persist.
to persist. But this discussion, if this was not on video, all the
It's
knowledge or
gone.
all the information that we shared here will be gone, and everyone
That's
will be
correct.
bringing home their memories of what we talked about. Tama?
Okay. But
Yan.
to temper that
Mm.
part of our discussion. Remember, si Karl Marx, he talked about the evolution of si Darwin, talked about evolution of human beings,
Ah.
of the species, and he did not think of anything that was not recorded as part of that kind of evolution. But later on, he was forced to admit that prehistory exists.
Mhm.
Prehistory is that
Before
something
written
that's
records.
part of the story
Nick.
of that we now know as history that was never ever written because there were no human beings yet. So it's called prehistory. And again, sa kagaya ng sinabi ni Uncle JP, if there were no human beings there and they were not
Pwedeng,
written, therefore they were not written,
pwedeng may
everything that
human
was written,
beings.
pwedeng meron, no?
Pwedeng
Pwedeng
may
wala
human
pa
beings but
talaga.
wala silang system of writing,
Yes.
or their system
Or
of
they did
writing
not witness it.
got lost or destroyed,
No.
di ba?
So, but prehistory now, science allows
Mm.
us to push back, okay, the limits of history in the past farther and farther and farther back because of the discoveries of, for example, yung mga dinosaurs, yung mga everything na nahahanap sa quag, sa mga amber deposits and all that stuff, fossils and all that. So, but is that history? Yes, it is history because it's somehow recorded, but it is not recorded by human beings. So, since it is not the human beings that wrote it, it is considered now as a natural history. Natural history. So, we then segue to human history. Human history is that part of history that we reckon to have started when human beings started to record the events that were they were experiencing, and to us they are past events, but to them it may have been a contemporary events. They were happening right there in front of them, or stories or accounts of things that happened in the past that somehow they are made aware of, okay, by their parents, by their
Mm.
lolo and lola.
Oral tradition. Oral tradition.
Oral
Yeah.
tradition. Pero is that written history? Well, when it is written, it becomes written history. But before then, it is oral history.
Yes.
Okay? So, before there was written history, history was just talk. It was just talk and also stored in memories of human beings and memories of collective communities, because somehow when people come together in a community, they develop this kind of collective memory that they seem to remember the same thing in the same way. Even
Yeah.
if the children, uh, knowing these things, were never present when the events originally happened.
Oh.
Okay, so these things are recorded in their minds. And this is a talk. Tatawid sila ng community,
Mm.
grade sila doon. They talk about all of these things and they come to learn of the happenings in the other community and even the past happenings in the other community, and they bring it home.
Mm.
And somebody retells the story to the community. So it becomes part, again, the history of another community becomes the history of this community, and all of that is oral.
Mm.
Chismis. Chismis. It's really chismis. Diba?
Mm.
Many historians think that it's the origin of history about human beings was just talk, was dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Diba? But does that denigrate against history in that form, oral history? No. Wala namang
Mm.
wala namang qualitative judgment as to which is better history. If you can
Mm.
prove that the oral history is really real, then it is as good as written history.
Okay.
Di ba, sir?
Pero, para sa akin, ganito yan. The way you're defining history, I remember my humanities 2
Hmm.
na klase. Ang sinasabi ng ano dun, ng aming professor is art is always the product of human expression. Uh, and an accidental human expression that may appear like art may not may not categorically or correctly be called art. Let's say for example, na-aksidente lang ako, I did not really intend to throw this glass sa likod and then it suddenly appeared like, oh, ganda niya na. Okay, and it was full of paint and then that is not art because it's accident. So it must be an intentional method that was done by a person to convey a certain message. Okay, and with that definition, sabi niya, nature cannot be considered as art. Let's say, for
Hmm.
example, may mga bato which formed itself into a beautiful shape. It is not art.
It is not
Okay?
art.
Okay. But in that way, nako-correlate ko lang, you're defining history as a deliberate human act of conveying a certain memory of a certain event. Or in that case, what you are expressing is a fact or an event or an account of a human event, or
Yes.
maybe not a human event, maybe a natural
But
event like a history.
but in
You're writing
relation,
about but you're writing about the volcano erupting and you were there. Nahulugan kayo ng mga bato, di ba?
hmm,
So, okay, your deliberate attempt there to convey the message is about what is happening right now. Okay? Uh, so in other words, if you define that a history is like that, then it is not necessary. It does not necessarily uh, kumbaga, it's not so inclusive, so much so that you can include those uh, information or facts that you can establish from non-human recording of events. Let's say, for example, yung footprints that are
hmm.
found in caves
Natural
and their
history kasi
bones that
natural
are
history.
found in caves. But that is not intended by humans to convey any message, but the message is clear that they were there, that they were living there, that they were burying their dead here. Okay? And yung patay, di ba? You know this,
I
that the
understand.
body
Exactly.
itself, in crime, the body itself tells the story of how it dies. Okay? So, a good forensic doctor can actually extrapolate from the state of decomposition, the depth of the wound, the location of the injury, the
Hmm.
cause of death, and what happened to this person. Okay? It tells a story. So, there are stories that can be decoded in that manner. So, ang sinasabi ko sa yung i-debunk kita, no? It's
Hmm.
yung theory na the medium is the message. Because sometimes information is encapsulated not just by words but also by other things. So
Exactly. Kaya
messages
kaya I
about
think that
past events.
the
They,
dichotomy is between human history and natural history expresses that
mhm,
because when it is nature that records it accidentally because it's never intentionally done by nature, it is
mhm,
discovered later on by human beings. Okay, it's
mhm.
later discovered by human beings and written about and studied and analyzed and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
from then on, when it is discovered by human beings, the same process that historians would have gone through, yung methodology would have gone through in events that they actually witnessed and human beings actually recorded would be similar. But the actual recording of it really was not that done by human beings, and therefore it falls under the category of a natural history. Natural history, however, is a vague thing. It's an almost an oxymoron because history really
Yeah,
when it
like the
was
mummies, oh. Sabi sir,
uh,
oh, like the mummies, the symbols, yeah.
dinosaurs.
Yes, yeah,
Why talk
mm,
about mummies when they're very recent? Dinosaurs. Let's
mm,
talk about that. Or even
yeah.
bones of megalodons that are found on the seashore.
Mm,
Malalaking sharks yan and all that. But the recording, for example, the deposition of the megalodon tooth on the seashore is not history. But when somebody finds it and writes about that and tries to analyze it and tries to theorize a story how
mhm,
it happened or who owned this tooth, now it becomes a part of human history.
mhm.
Diba? And still, that is history. That is a history proper
Okay,
when we talk about when
okay.
when we talk about this
Agree,
discoveries.
agree, agree, agree. Pero the intersect of both of this, ano lang siguro, isang point lang, no? The intersection of both of this that will not be defined na ball by our discussion is yung discussion ni Einstein na because of the
Yeah,
space and time, you can actually look back to a slice of time and see it happening right there. But okay, we're not concerned about that.
outside of that.
Ang concern ko doon is this, yung term na fact. Okay? The term fact.
Yes,
Okay?
because that is important.
Because
Why fact
if
is important
uh,
history is would come later on in our discussion. Maybe not tonight, maybe in the future, but
mm,
because it will embody that part of the history where proof is concerned.
si
Proof.
Trixie malamang tulog. Okay.
Tulog
Kasi
na
ito yung,
tulog.
okay, ganito yun, ganito yun. The importance of that distinction that that the writing itself of events is generally art. Okay? A person
Yes.
who writes events expresses something, and that is art. But some people are actually writing not for artistic reasons, but really to uh, chart or record events like, alam mo yung mga scientists, they are recording specific findings right then and there from experiments. So there are actually some forms of modern writing that are not artistic, but are actually very kumbaga expressive
Descriptive.
of descriptive of what really happened or what is that thing being observed for
Mm,
scientific and whatever reasons. Okay,
that's right.
so uh, that there's a different class of writings, especially in the modern world, no? But generally, whenever people write about things in the past and about ano, this is not uh, this is not uh, this is not a question of fact. Okay, and to be debating on the truthfulness of a written art is actually crazy. It's
Yeah,
like
it's
saying
irrelevant.
na
It's
oh,
irrelevant.
it's like saying na that thing that my daughter drew is actually wrong because the size of that boat is not realistic. Or you will say that Picasso's drawings are not really human. So that is
Mm.
a farce. So Picasso is fake news because it's
Oh,
not
si
factually
Salvador
true.
Dali is Salvador Dali is 'di ba? His drawings are like melting clocks
Ang
and all that.
topic natin
Surreal.
dito, Bas ha? Ang topic natin dito is yung pinagkakaiba ng kasi what we deal with today is actually the history of yesterday. What we read in the news is actually yesterday's history. Okay?
Yep.
And what you hear from us now is actually just a few seconds ago history of this conversation. And what we want to emphasize here is how do we ascertain the truthfulness, or alam mo yun, weigh the value of all of these things that happen as part of history.
Yep.
So yun, okay? Sa
Okay.
circumference.
I am about to share something, uh, and let's go about definitions of history by historians
Yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
And
Okay. Yeah,
let's
yeah.
look at that.
Can you
Okay,
flash it? Yun, good.
there. And you see it. Let me remove these
Uh,
logos first.
pwede
Let
mo
me
ba
remove
yan,
these.
i-zoom in? Something like that.
Uh, Gosh, no,
Ah, brr.
no.
Watching and listening because I am cleaning my house. Oh, yeah. She
Okay.
is recording history right now.
All right. Let's talk about this thing. Si Herodotus. Ay, teka muna. Doon ko kaya
Herodotus.
buksan to sa ano no, doon sa browser, and then it would be bigger. Hold on, hold on.
I think so, yeah. Ano ba yung ginagamit mo to flash that?
Yung PDF ay,
Alam nyo,
pero kung bubuksan ko
if
siya,
any one of you have a better software for us to use, or di ba?
magli-Linux ako para libre. Next
Help
time.
us, ha? We are very, very open to suggestions because we want to improve this technically para mas mag-enjoy kayo at mas madali yung manamnam ang aming mga pinagsasasabing
Ito.
kalokohan.
Oh, malaki naman.
Yeah.
Oh, there.
Okay?
There, and then there, that stuff. Hold on.
How about you guys? Ano ba masasabi niyo tungkol dito? Habang nag-arrange yung si Ahmed yan, what's the, why does history repeat itself? Okay, because okay.
Good
Why
question.
does history repeat itself? Why not? Di ba? Why
Oh, there,
not?
there it is. It's
Oh,
bigger, it's bigger. Okay. Ayan.
hmm.
Herodotus, again.
Okay.
Wow, tumamba ako. Herodotus is
Wrote.
popularly known as the father of history. Wrote about Greco-Persian wars. This contains a mine of information, including those relating to the ancient Egyptians and Persians. Okay, Thucydides developed these subjects on scientific lines. He wrote the Peloponnesian Wars on the basis of evidence and showed the relation between causes and effects or results. Okay, so yan yung definition nila ng history. Okay, ito naman si Thomas Carlyle. World history is a biography of great men. Imagine that. If you are not a great person and a man at that,
Uh,
you're probably not part of
then,
history. If you are a woman
so
and a
you're in that
regular
slice.
woman,
What? Yeah.
go ahead, go.
Di ba? Yeah. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, so but remember that the context of this definition by Thomas Carlyle would have to be understood. This would have to be understood, uh, taking to mind his milieu, yung milieu, yung kanyang
Oh, where it's coming from?
existence
Yeah.
in space or time, and space and
Okay.
time,
In
and
fact, this is
also
very
the
important for us
temperament.
listeners, ha. Mga
Mm,
pakinggan niyo yung kay yung punto na ni yan about
okay.
history being a biography of great men. Okay? Because this is
Mm,
a very important subject for us.
yes.
Sige. Ah,
By this, okay, my interpretation of this is that history is not the biography of famous men. It is a story about the lives of human beings, so it's something that was worth remembering or recording. Okay, but this is not limited to men. So forget
mhm.
about the gender equality thing
Mm.
here, because the milieu of this guy, uh, wala pang gender equality nung panahon yun, but he would have meant well when he just said men. Okay.
Mhm.
Prof. Rainier, okay. History
Okay,
is the science.
wait,
Go ahead, go.
wait. You know why this is important for me? This is very important because mostly among all our listeners here, me included, you included, this is how we were taught history. And that is why it's so boring. That is
Yep.
why we cannot see any reason why we should be
Why we should
remembering these
know it.
things. Why we
Yeah.
should know these things. Because of this
Yep.
guy whose idea actually became the model of our textbooks. Okay, that's why pag naalala niyo pag nag-exam tayo dati, Jose Rizal, tapos Dash, yung mga pinapakita natin, Ninoy Aquino, namatay siya at ano, ganun, may mukha, tapos ano.
Yeah.
That is how our history is being taught. And it makes no sense because ah, wala tayong nakikita storya dyan. There's no story there. It
Yeah.
makes no connection between this great man and that great man there over there, with the blue cap. Okay, because
Or
if
the
you will
great men
define
and
it,
women that are
and the
listening
great
and
that are
watching
listening to
us.
us, okay,
Mm.
because if you will talk about you will refer to histories like that, then you will probably be talking about me alone, not you, di ba? So, yan ang isang problema sa ating history, nakafocus sa tao na sikat sa isang historical event. Like, it's
Okay,
a
in relation to
revolution.
that,
Mm.
in relation
Yes.
to that, okay, when we talk about truth, about a historical claim, okay, truth
Mm.
about a historical claim is a very complicated thing. First, to discover. Second,
Mhm.
to prove. And third, to even understand. Bakit? Kasi nga, when you are given a list, okay, a list of events, yung kagaya ng sinasabi ni Sir JP about a great man, Jose Rizal, a human being's desire to know these things would be devoid of any emotion,
Context.
any context, milieu, temperament, kung ano yung feeling ng mga
Ah,
tao doon nung sinulat ito. If you do not have that kind of information, truth can never be ascertained, uh, in the sense that truth, as it was written, when it was written, and by whom it
mhm.
was written, can never be discovered by people reading it now.
Yeah,
And
like,
that is why sometimes talking about truth in history
mm,
is ridiculous.
mm.
It is fucking
like,
ridiculous.
like, why did Rizal write the No Limitang Hirim itself? Can anybody answer?
I don't know, man.
Di ba? What's the reason for his writing that uh, No Limitang Hirim? Why? What was happening around him at the time? Yeah. Now,
Yeah, nobody told us these things.
our educational system is still riddled with this kind of thinking by Carlyle. Why? Because our system of education was that one almost ano, kumbaga in terms of structure and pedagogy. Yun pa rin yung turo ng mga Thomasians, the Thomasites in Kuno, ha? Kuno, the Thomasites. And they are still thinking that we had no education during the Spanish times. So,
Mm.
yun lang yung Thomasites lang yung sistema ng pag-aaral. Kaya, yun. Ang ating naintindihan about our history is what Bonifacio did, what Aguinaldo did, nagwagayway siya ng ano. Pero bakit siya nagwagayway ng bandila doon? Anong konteksto nun?
Yep,
Nagrevolusyon ba talaga siya? Meron ba talaga silang revolusyon? Did he really win at that time?
exactly.
Wala. Okay. Good evening
Moving
from
on.
Norway. Yeah, moving
Good
on.
evening, Norway.
Hmm.
Masarap yung mga pagkain nila dyan, except that it's really fucking cold in that place, man.
Oh, yan, again, man-centered. Man-centered.
Professor
Ah,
Rainier, sinabi niya, history is the memories of societies. Now, this guy, Rainier, now
medyo may
talks about uh,
society.
oh yes,
Groups.
history in relation to societies. Okay,
Groups na,
not
groups.
directly to individual, particular human beings, but a general
Group dynamic.
group dynamic of society. All right. Will Durant. Durant is really a famous historian, and I think sinasabi niya, history is a narrative of what civilized men have thought or done in the past. Civilized
Uh,
men. Okay, so that
so, the
if we
uncivilized.
if we say that the barbarians were not civilized, then stories about barbarians should never be studied now as part of fucking history. But
Mm-hmm.
it's worthwhile to probably study about the Vikings and all that stuff. Why? because it's still a story of human beings. Diba? So here we see the definitions made by historians themselves have limits, and they were not even aware of it. They
Yeah.
were not even aware of it. They did not put the limits there themselves. Okay? It's
Hmm.
nature, it's
Sabi,
history that showed their limits.
okay. Yeah, sabi ni Edro Solan, Jonathan, it exposes the corrupt Spanish ruling, no?
Mm.
Spanish ruling in fictional setting, but based in true events, or maybe the other way around, in fictional
Mm.
events based on true
Exactly.
settings.
Tasaday.
How sure are you? Di ba? So,
Tasaday.
sabi Rizal is a genius who fought with a pen. Did he really fight? Or was he just saying something else? Maybe he just wrote a love story between
Yes.
Maria Clara. Who told you that the meaning of No Limitang Hire is what it means?
Or is it even historical? Or
Yeah.
he didn't claim to to present Noli
Uh,
as a historical book. It's a
yeah.
novel.
It's
It's
a novel.
a story.
What if he
Oh,
just wrote a love story because he was just in the Pornhub mood? Diba? Or he was just
yes.
bored and he wrote a love story.
Maybe he wanted to contribute to Playboy. You know, the stories that are very important there to be read by us.
Okay. Because, okay, the history that was taught to us is the fact that Rizal wrote. That is the
Yeah.
history. What Rizal wrote is not history.
It is not
Okay?
at all.
And the message of his writing itself is even part of
More
a
ambiguous.
historical interpretation of some set of people that is being taught to each and every one of you na tumungtong ng fourth year high school at saka PI 100. Di ba?
Yeah.
So, okay. Uh, it is very important to look at the context of these things that are being taught as history and then how we look at historical materials. No? Do we look at people? Do we look at societies? Is it enough? Or what is the next definition?
Next definition. Yun nga eh.
Oh yeah,
All I can
civilized.
say, looking at all the definitions, this is just some of them.
Mm,
Every definition is lacking.
mm.
Because history
Are we
as
still in
a
YouTube daw?
yes, we are still in YouTube. Since the
Is this
Luminous
live?
kasi walang YouTube si ano eh, si Uncle JP eh.
Yeah,
Um,
and then
so sa atin
sa
lang.
Luminous, how do they get in? How do they get through YouTube? Paki
You just
ay dito
go
ano?
on to YouTube and yun yung may mga icon yung mga pictures nila.
Oh,
That means
nasa
that
YouTube
this
yan
guy
sila.
X Lost is watching
Is
from
watching
YouTube.
from
And,
you. Okay, the one with the
and the
red
rest,
icon. Can they see
the
this
X
chat?
icon,
Can they see this chat?
huh?
Hindi. Can
You
the
don't see
audience
these
see this
things.
chat? No, the
The audience,
audience.
no.
They don't see
They
this
don't see
chat.
this column. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So moving on, history is an ending dialogue between
Stars.
the present and the past. Okay. Importante ito. Present and the past. And the chief function of historian is to master and understand the past as the key to understanding of present. See?
Yan
Ngayon,
yung sagot ni history repeats itself. Ha? Kung sino yung tatanong. Okay?
tingnan mo ngayon yung definition ni E.H. Carr. And Carr he's an awesome historian. But he is a historian of history. He is studying the history of history,
Uh-huh.
which is a otherwise known as philology, history
Mm-hmm.
of language. So all of these things um, is very murky. Tama yung sinabi ni Joel, and ambiguous because for everything that we think is history, is it an account of past events or an account of what nature preserved and led human beings studying it to
Uh-huh.
make stories about these things, and later on we're able to prove these are history. This is part of history. But again, when you want to enclose and encapsulate history as something that's something to do with absolute list of things that happened in the past and their relationship with truth, you're crazy.
Mm.
Okay, it is not the business of history to talk about truth. Truth is the business of what of epistemologists, epistemologists or linguists or
Ano,
metaphysicians.
yung, yung sinasabi natin kanina, yung forensic scientist.
Yung mga ganyan.
Truth.
Well,
Yeah.
I will tell you this now. Uh, Lawyers are not
Mm.
involved in
In the
truth
bis,
when they
yeah,
in court.
yeah.
They are only
Established.
involved in fact. And what is fact? Fact is an allegation that has proof.
Uh,
Did it happen? Doesn't matter. If you can prove that in this statement
is a fact.
by proof, which is either testimonial, kinuwento ng isang tao, or material, nakita dyan, picturean yan eh.
Yes. Yes.
But is it true? It is not a question in court. And courtrooms,
Mm-hmm.
okay, when they are deal, for example, with criminal cases, has the requirement of proof beyond reasonable doubt. And if you look at the laws and the rules of court and the constitution of every country in this world, truth is never required for you to convict a person. It is just proof
Mm.
beyond reasonable doubt.
Ah,
Courtrooms, the highest Supreme Court, the highest body in every country that
mhm.
has to know eh, what happened, what actually happened, so that he can send a guilty person to jail or even to death, and not an innocent person to jail or to death.
Mhm.
All he needs is proof for
Okay.
an allegation to become a fact and never truth.
Okay. Para sa akin kasi, nung nagde-drive ako na isang beses sa may Ortigas, no, Pasig flyover dyan sa may C5. There was a billboard there. We fact-check the fact-checkers.
Mm,
Natawa ako, no? Kasi they were also another media company. So,
mm,
kasi sa loob-loob ko, in society, we invented this institution that establishes things like facts. And there's
mm.
only one place that is, kumbaga, unquestionably uh, endowed with the right to establish facts, and that is a court. And
Yep.
anywhere else, not even in science, or they do not establish facts there.
No
They establish
courts.
their own findings, diba? They establish their own
Theories.
no,
Proof
their
of
theories,
their theories.
their actually their findings. Those are not facts. Those are their findings, okay? And when you
Mm.
say facts, facts pertain to matters that are brought to a court, and then a judge by judge that this is the truth here. This is the fact here
This
that
is a
we will be
fact here.
using, that we will be
Yeah.
using in coming up with our judgment.
Deciding. That's
Yeah,
right.
like in the
So
case of
when
Maria
when when
Ressa,
when
the
when we
fact.
use truth, when
Mm,
we use truth, perhaps what we mean by that is the relationship between the allegation, okay, the statement, the declaration of something like a claim
mhm,
that an apple is on the table.
mm,
The truth here, in this case, is fact, meaning when I say there is an apple on the table, there is actually an existing round fruit that is comes out of the rose
mm,
family,
mm.
and it is sitting on the fucking table.
Oh,
If
but
my statement
uh,
and what I see in front of me would correspond to each other one to one, then that is a fact.
uh,
But truth,
or
who
even
knows?
like this, evidence lang ah.
Mm.
If now we are talking about yesterday, and it needs to be determined whether I saw an apple on the table, and then I will be asked to testify, and I will state, I swear I saw an apple, and then Ahmed
Mm.
will now come and swear on the same thing that he saw an apple on the same table. So,
Mm.
any person who claims otherwise, di ba, and cannot provide more sufficient, more overwhelming truth than these two testimonies from two gentlemen, then there was
Mm.
no apple on the table. The judge will just say, okay, this is the fact that I will use as part of my decision. Okay, now,
Exactly.
ito si Argus Troy was
Mm.
asking, Attorney Ahmed, Sir JP, have you ever thought that Jose Rizal is overrated? Now, let's talk of facts. Okay, they claim,
Yes.
okay, now let's talk of yung logic. Kasi, when you use these facts to come up with a judgment, you use logic. Yun kasi yung
Yep.
purpose nun eh.
Mm.
Kaya ka mag-establish ng fact 1, fact 2, fact 3, fact 4 so that you can fuck it all over again, di ba? So you don't fuck it all over the place. You come up with a very very logical uh, uh, system of making a decision. So sabi ni is Rizal overrated? Ganito na lang yung sasabihin natin dyan. Okay, he wrote a nice novel. It was hard to
Mm.
write given his circumstances. So, given the time,
It
given
is
the
Spanish.
budget. Okay, it is so hard to write. But to claim that the revolution was caused by that those two novels. Okay, establish this fact. How many copies of the novel was made? Was ever printed?
Mm.
How many copies of that novel was ever printed at that time? At
At the
most, maybe
lifetime
what? No,
lifetime
no,
of
no,
Jose
no, no.
Rizal.
No, after printing and then okay. How many copies were printed? Hmm?
Mm. I
Uh,
don't know. I don't know.
okay. At most, sige, napabigyan na natin. 2,000 at that time would be so many books.
That
Huh?
is really, really many.
Really, really, it's gonna cost you a fortune to print 2,000 books. Did
Mm.
he have a bookstore selling it so that he can recover the cost? Who financed this whole thing? But okay, granting, there were 2,000 copies of that book. How many Filipinos need to read that book so that you can raise a 30,000 army in a matter of 1990 to 96, 4 years? Sige nga, how many people do you need to be copies of this book na ganyang kakapal? You've seen the knowledge. And at that time, bawal siyang i-imprint. Okay, so sige. May Xerox ba noon? Wala. Okay, so ganting nabasa ng mga Pinoy. And nag ano sila, na-inspire sila ng libro. Na-inspire sila ni Jose Rizal na mag-revolusyon. Okay, galing, no? Na-inspire sila. So nung pinuntahan nila si Rizal, because they believe so much in his fictional work called No Limitangere, they recruit him to lead their revolution. And then he says, Huy, ano ba yung naisip niyo? Huwag kayong magrevolusyon. And what do they do?
Iwanan siya.
Do they follow this person whom they believe so much? Did they really believe Rizal? Come on. Di ba? Think. Think for yourselves. If you believe in someone so much, you would not doubt 1 second anything this person says. Tama?
Yeah. Tama yan, right? Those
Naisip nyo ba
people
yun,
who follow Jesus,
naisip nyo ba
they
yun,
live
mga
their
friends?
path. Mm.
Naisip nyo ba yan? Ha? Una is the impossibility of distribution. Pangalawa is, okay, so granting na naniwala sila at yun yung kanilang dahilan because they were so inspired by this person.
Nabasa kaya ng lahat ng miyembro ng Katipunan yung Noli?
Hindi, sabihin na nga natin, granting na nabasa. Yeah, Tony?
Assumption
Diba?
lang yan, assumption.
Hindi, granting nga na nabasa and they believe him so much. When he told them not to go in a revolution, why didn't they believe him?
Mm.
Ha?
Why didn't they obey him?
Kasi the reason because they went into the revolution because they believed him. And when he told them not to go to a revolution, to go pursue that revolution, what did they do? Did they listen to him?
Nope.
Eto direct words na yan, ha? And the other is about using the story of Maria Clara and
Padre Damaso.
fiction. So they'd rather believe the fiction rather than the person who made the fiction.
Wrote it.
Wow. So I'll leave it up to you. You use your own uh, mm, facts from the history that was told you. But the fact is, there was a Katipunan.
Mm.
Hmm? Our Katipuneros really died for something.
Yep.
It must not be because of that result.
Man.
Don't you see
That,
what I'm driving here is, guys? The point here is there is a big question about that part, about why the Katipunan did revolt at all. So even that part lang, si Rizal, Rizal na lang na Rizal. The cause of the cause is the cause of the evil cause. El causa de la causa is causa del el malo.
isipin mo yung cause ng na history is
Mm.
claiming
Mm.
uh, which is the which are the two
No,
novels.
wait. I'll just correct this one. I'm not saying it's
Mm.
too good to be true. It's so
No.
stupid for you to believe it.
Mm.
Too
Yeah,
illogical.
to use it as a basis for a revolution is just so full of shit, man.
Mm. Parang nagrevolusyon ng dahil sa sa Valiente. O di kaya sa yung kay Cardo.
Panday.
Hindi yung kay Cardo na Dalisay.
Panday
Si
nga, panday.
hindi Panday ba yun? Hindi. Yung isa, ang
Panday.
probinsyano. Mm.
Ang probinsyano. Hmm.
Na-influensya kay Bonifacio sa revolusyon nila, yung French Revolution at yung American Revolution. Probably. Probably because those are more credible sources of uh, getting ideas for
Yeah.
revolution, di ba? In fact,
See,
they are using they're known to be using a certain book that is still related to those earlier revolutions, not necessarily the American or the French.
mm,
Yes, ito na. Go.
hindi pa ako makapagsalita. Do not talk on your mouth.
Kumakain din ako eh. Okay. Katipunan and Rizal are just tools of Filipinos at saturation and tipping point of abusive Spanish rule. Okay. How many Spanish were here?
About 2000.
Boss Abus. How many Spanish soldiers were here? How
In
many
1898.
in 1898? How many Spanish soldiers were here? How many Spanish government
Ito ang
officials were here?
pinakamaganda sa.
Hmm.
Di
Ano
ba
yan?
ito yung duda natin?
I have this inkling that Jose Rizal as a national hero is a construct of American propaganda. You got it right, my friend, Angus. Now,
Duda
welcome to
lang
the
namin, duda lang
No,
namin
duda
yan.
lang,
Duda.
duda lang.
We have no proof of it
Teka,
yet.
sino ba ang nag-legislate nun? Is it the older commissions yung nag-legislate na gawin siyang national hero? O later na?
There is no law that made him a hero.
Nothing, okay. Why is he national hero? Merong nag-declare?
I think merong pronouncement or declaration
Decree, mga ganun.
ang historical institute
Mm.
which was just I think but yun nga, it doesn't matter if that he is a hero or
Mm.
not a hero or how he was
But
declared a
in,
hero.
mm,
This guy was important.
he
Okay, it
was
is
a great
important.
guy.
Okay, that guy, Jose Rizal, is important to us.
Mm.
It is important in our psyche, in how we move in society. But is it justified that a revolutionary movement
Uh,
would base the revolution on his novels?
uh,
Di ba? Is
okay.
that a justifiable thing?
Okay, ganito yung mahalaga dito. We are not questioning the motives of the Katipunan. But as Filipinos, understanding history, is it healthy for us to think that our Katipuneros were the stupid guys who made a revolution based on a goddamn love story?
It is the
Or,
history that is being told you that
hmm,
is wrong.
or wouldn't it be healthy for us as a nation or as a singular community if we really understand what they were fighting for? Because they really fought. There are dead
They
bodies,
did, and we appreciate the effects of that
di ba?
fight that they did.
They fought. But for us not to be privy of what that fight was all about, yan ang problema with history repeats itself. Kasi, if we do not know what they already fought about, then we do not know what were the solutions na tama sana. We cannot analyze what were the correct acts or was this appropriate for that particular problem. Di ba? So,
Yeah.
nagkakaroon tayo na ngayon ng failure to make any benefit from this
Any
historical
learning.
study.
Yes.
Wala silbi. Then it's a waste of
So,
time. Oo. It
exactly. So,
becomes
ang
a waste of
nangyayari
time.
dyan, salamat Nila Layo.
Oy,
Okay?
thank you.
We are talking about history and about our own country,
Ah,
especially about the revolution in the late 1800s,
ah,
which pertains to the revolution of the Filipinos against the Indios against
ah,
the Spaniards. Okay?
mm,
And we are supposed to learn this in order to
mm.
develop a nationalist spirit, nationalist
Or
emotion.
united understanding of
Sure.
who we are.
Okay. And yet,
Foundation.
if you analyze the supposed basis of this learning and the
Mm,
method of learning this, you do not see any fucking point. Bakit? Kasi the history that is being shoved down your throat doesn't even make sense when you question the most basic questions of why would people volunteer to die
mm, mm,
in a war that they can hardly win
mm.
about two novels written by this
Okay.
guy who, when they invited him to the Katipunan, he even said no.
Don't.
Did he even
That's not the
believe his
right
own
ano.
novels?
Oh.
Yeah,
Now,
that's the
this
question there.
Abelardo, look at Abelardo's ano. Sir, can you flash this ano point? Okay. Abelardo says that
We can
okay,
see it.
this is supported by many historical accounts of Spain. And why is this so important for us? Because the weakness of Spain in the 18th century is actually the cause. For me, I'm working on that line of line
Of the
of
rise of all these things.
okay, na line of analysis. Na to understand why they really revolted, it started with Spain being weakened. So imagine a central government getting weakened by what? By external forces that wanted to change the system of government. They changed their constitution 6 times. Cha-cha. Okay? Do these themes ring a bell? Cha-cha. They want to change the form of government, this kind of government, war, papalitan yung hari, maghahanap ng hari, prinsipe na bata. Alam mo yun, all of this instability and destabilization of that concept of government will cause a revolution.
Exactly. And
If
when
we will
and
understand, ha? If
kung
we will,
marami.
kung maiintindi, ako, I'm really hoping there will be an eye-opening here, di ba? Kasi,
Yes,
this is more
exactly.
important for us. That's why kami nila Ahmed, we do not go with that flow na puro na lang sirain natin yung gobyerno, sirain natin yung establishment. Because if we do not understand na kapag yan yung ginawa natin, then you will have a revolution. You will have
Sinasayang mo yung
mm,
katipunan.
mm,
Sayang mo lang sila.
hindi mo ngayon ma-appreciate na, okay, as a result of the weakness of us, not of a central government, you will have instability in the boondocks, which was we were in the far-flung far-flung territories of Spain, and we were too far for Napoleon even to want to have us. Sipin mo, yung hari pinaltalsik na, si Napoleon na umupo dun sa trono, hindi nga niya inisip kung anong gagawin dyan sa Pilipinas. Yung hari had to maintain us from exile. Do you
Hmm.
think that is a tyranny or love?
Good
Pinalayas ka
question.
na. Yeah. Food for your
So
thought.
maybe
Yeah. Thank you for the
it's a suggestion,
mm,
a suggested historical acclaim to an alternative story is that, you know, Spain was not defeated, was not revolted against by the Filipinos because of the what happened with Kumburza and what happened in two things daw yun, di ba? Kumburza and what's the other thing?
Hmm?
Uh, Servicios,
Ano yun?
Polos Servicios.
Service.
But
Tax.
we are not really so sure what these two things are. Is it the basis or the justification for the revolution or the justification for Rizal writing his two novels? Ang
Hmm.
sinabi ni Attorney Trixie is that it is largely
Team.
agreed to by historians that these two things, okay, these two claims that itong Gumburza
Hmm.
who were fighting for secularization of the priestly services in Luzon, in Luzon,
Okay. Guys,
priestly services in Luzon,
remember
and
I
the other one
already...
Polos
Sige.
Servicios.
Ah,
Mm.
yeah,
So, kaya, hindi
we have
yata
the
yun yung
number.
basis.
Hmm.
Hindi yata yung basis. It's more likely that there are numbers. There are statements with numbers. Okay, let's put them up. Salamat, Abelardo Inok.
That is
This
a
guy,
historical
this guy
message. So,
said
yeah.
something very important. This
Yes,
Abelardo guy.
that kind of historical recording of facts is important because we need to know kung i-remake ba talaga yan ni ano. No, anyway, this is just a joke, no? But yun, GG, thank you.
So
Again,
is
pare.
it more likely to believe? Is it more likely for us to justify the revolution on
On shaky
two
grounds
things
or
like secularization and the polos y servicios, rather than that Spain was viewed by all of its territories, okay, all of those territories which felt that this is an imperial power and we want freedom from these people because they
Mhm.
are not even like us. At na-weaken yung Spain and all of these territories, if we, revolt, there's a possibility, more than half, more than 50% possibility that we will win, that Spain will let us go because they're already weak in Spain itself.
Hmm.
So, which is more likely to be true or to be a fact, di ba?
Okay. Okay, ganito lang
Pag-isipan
din
natin.
niya. Isa pa. So there were two parts of this revolution. One was in 1896, yung nauna, no? And then it ended up with our heroes agreeing to be bribed by Spain. So they will stop. Okay, tumanggap sila ng pera para tumigil sa gera, which is a normal compensation at that time for ending wars, even up to now. No, if you want to stop a group from revolting from you, you try to buy them out. That is a normal strategy, di ba?
Yep.
And that is not an immoral move. Business pa rin naman yan. Okay? But, uh, una 1896, for whatever reason, which we do not know anymore, no? Which we still, kumbaga, hindi naman, we know what we are told. But we'll just put a question mark on that. Kasi if they really believed in their cause, then why would you allow a $200,000 pa bribe stop you from that cause? In the Treaty of Biak na Bato with
Yep.
Spain. And then now you will, I don't know, 400,000 pala. And then you will now complain for your second revolution against Spain for not giving you the entire amount of 400,000 but only gave you 200,000. Ginancho ka pa. So ano na ba talaga to? What is this talk all about? Di ba? But I don't think this is the entire story because they really fought for something. Why would you risk your life for something like that? Di ba? Ikaw.
Parang
Oh.
parang sumugal lang eh. Parang sumugal
Oh.
tapos dumiga, tapos na nag-bluff. Tapos
Oh.
pumold yung kalaban ng Spain.
Hmm.
Pero hindi
Di
bigay
ba?
yung pot money.
Oh, tsaka
Tong
kung mahina,
it's
okay, kung mahina na nga yung Spain, alam natin yon. Mahina na talaga siya economically, militarily. Bakit hindi
politically.
okay. Ilan ba sila na nandito na namumuno noong 1896? At ilan ba yung lumaban sa kanila na katipunero? Ba't hindi sila nalusog? Hindi sila nalipol? Baka naman walang popular support ng mga katipunero. Baka naman si Joe
Baka sila
Masison
sila
yung
lang.
katubats yan. No, no, no.
Mm.
Like, haven't we considered that their group was just like how we view itong mga nasa bundok
NPA.
ngayon? NPA ngayon.
Mga walang masa, walang
Oh,
mass
if
base.
they will now come to Manila, do you think we would help them? But I would probably believe if they were offered $200,000, they will stop. Itong NPA.
Probably.
Probably.
No, but the next question is that is it we are we justified in believing that we won that revolution?
Yeah.
Did we win the revolution?
Hmm.
I don't
Okay.
I don't see any definitive statement in history that says that.
Pero ano yung sabi sa definition natin? It's the story of a society. Tama ba yun? O hinala lang yung
Great,
sa mga
yeah.
definitions. No, the best part there, the best definition there. What do
Oh,
you
there
think
it
is the
is.
best definition there?
Hmm.
Because it's definitely not just about people. It's definitely,
Yes.
okay. It is
Biography
part.
of great men, is that what you're talking about?
It is
History of
also,
members of society.
that's nice, okay? It's a memory of society. And then,
What civilized man have thought or done in the past?
yes, and donations. Ha?
History is an ending dialogue between the present and the past.
Ano
That's
yun?
a very
Ano
academic
yun? Yung
definition.
civilized men?
Ito kay Durant, kay Will Durant.
Let me show you something about civilized men.
Let's
Sige,
see.
sige. Just go on. What do you think is the best definition there?
Ito Carr, sinabi ni Carr yan. Natapos na natin si Carr, si Professor G.R. Elton. History is concerned with all the human sayings, thoughts, deeds, and sufferings which occurred in the past and have left present deposit. Naiwan yung deposit. Kumbaga, there is a proof or a part of a proof that just gives you an inkling that something happened in the past. And we discovered that. Okay. And
So-
it deals with them from the point of view of happening change and particular. What the hell is that?
There, that's nice, huh? The change that results from relationships or from things that happened in the past. Yun yung importante
Mm.
dun sa question ng history happening again.
Mm.
Because, alam mo, the greatest stupidity is if it already happened before and then you did not know and then it happens again and it's a catastrophic outcome, then your society is stupid. Di ba? You're wasting
Ito si Lord.
opportunity
Yeah,
to
right.
learn.
Sorry.
Sino si Lord? Lord De Vera?
Si Lord
Meron siyang
Acton.
definition?
Ito si Lord Acton. Ito yata yung nagsabi na I may disagree with what you say,
Hmm.
but I will defend to the death, my death. You're right to say it. Kasi itong taong to is ito yung niniwala sa constitutional freedom and all that. Okay, yung right to speech and all that. So, yan yung kanya namang point of view in viewing history. History is the unfolding story of human freedom. Does that say anything about truth or fact or nothing? But that is history to him.
How about human freedom daw?
Story of human
So,
freedom.
so how about human bondage? Wala, hindi siya kasali. Or
It is
maybe the
probably not
absence of freedom. Maybe not
that
the
is not
absence of
history.
freedom.
That's fake news.
No, it's the absence of freedom or the presence of freedom or the promotion of freedom. Maganda rin. Pwede. But that is important, di ba? Because it talks about the
Still.
aspiration of people. So that
Right.
is no longer personality based. But
And it deals with
group
it deals
dynamic.
with the idea that history is multifaceted, and
Mhm.
if you deal with history from the point of view of wanting to find the truth,
Oh,
this definition would give you a hint that the truth is multifaceted as well. And if the truth is like that, how many faces, kasi facet is a face, how many faces of your history would you need to find the truth on? If it is like it is 100 faces, you would look for 100 truths. Can you do that? See, so you probably only would deal with political history, scientific history, but not all of the facets of history. And if you're just dealing with two parts of a multifaceted thing, that is not truth. Truth is absolute, it's general, it's universal, and it's immutable. It cannot change. But
Mm.
look what happened. Look what's happening to us in dealing with our own history. Dati, meron tayong paniniwala na may three waves of migration sa Philippines. Now, it doesn't exist. Now, it is a false story. So, where is the truth there that is immutable?
Okay.
What are we saying? We are saying that all of these claim that there is truth and the truth is known by historians because that is why they have the goal to say that history is not like chismis because they somehow attribute truth to their story.
Okay.
Okay,
But
and
but
the other point is that journalists who
mm,
bring us the news
mm.
are the gatekeepers of truth. How ridiculous is that? Do they even understand what the truth is?
Okay, ganito 'yan.
Correct?
Okay. When
Yes.
you represent somebody else's experience in your writing, you are bound by the restrictions of science and your own brain to be expressing an art. When you're expressing somebody else's experience, okay, that is not something you can claim to be true. But when you write about yourself or your own experience, that is a different thing. Okay? Uh, kumbaga sa level of uh, kung sa currency ng ano yan ng history, yung mga personal writings, personal reports, lalo na kung report official at that to their government na hindi ka pwede magsinungaling. The only thing you can expect there, if there is untruth there, will be something that is skipped or not talked about. Okay? But everything that is written in an official government report, you would expect that person writing to his
Factual.
boss. Not only that, provable, or otherwise, hindi siya magsusulat about things, anything. Kasi hindi yan public eh. It is not written for the public. So, letters are very, very credible. Sources of particular facts. So, can I share this, attorney, which is going to be interesting for our, about our countrymen in 1901. Okay, how do you think?
Give it to me.
Okay, wait lang ha. Para makilala nyo yung ating mga kababayan. Yung mga kasamahan
Sige,
ng ating mga...
babati muna ako.
May bati-bati muna tayo bago natin kasi
Yes,
happy
blue and gray.
Blue,
Very first religion here in the Philippines. We do not know because religion is a very vague concept.
Oh, pero if you want to read about religion, read my post now. In Wandangkal. I
Yes,
wrote about that.
yes, read that.
It's very, very instructive and I learned that from Attorney Ahmed yesterday. Oh, ha? Hindi akin yun. Paano ko ba ito pipiliin? Paano nga ba ito? Window, no? Window muna. Okay. Sige.
No.
Alright. Okay, so you may be interested to read this letter. Okay, the letter is, mag-intro na ako, sir, ha? Ano mo na lang, share, okay? The letter, this is an exhibit, ha? The exhibit, which
It is a document presented in court.
No. It is. Okay, ha? Tingnan natin yung credibility nito, ha? This exhibit is attached in the 1901 report of General Arthur MacArthur, Governor General of the Republic of the Philippines, ha?
Tatay ni Douglas.
Military Governor General of the Philippine Islands. So ito yung nagmamarshalo na presidente ng equivalent na presidente natin ngayon. And he is writing to his bosses, the colonial Americans, for documentation. And in his attachment, he said, na-mention kasi ito na nagtayo na ang ilang grupo ng mga Pilipino ng political party dito sa Pilipinas in 1901. And he asked these political parties to tell, to write him what their party is all about. And this is the letter of those great Filipinos. Okay? And imagine what happened in 1890. So this is Exhibit A, submitted to ni General MacArthur. No? So it's a letter uh, na galing sa mga kapwa natin Pilipino. Manila, May 14,
Sorry, sorry, sorry.
1901. Okay?
Asan ba
May
yun?
14, this is 1901. 2 years after the Philippine-American War. Okay? Yung revolution, yung 1898, yung pagwagayway ni Aguinaldo. So you can now see what's going on. No? Natapos nang mag-surrender si Aguinaldo at this time. Si Aguinaldo supposedly was declared to have surrendered, but he was actually captured. Ang magandang kwento yun, attorney, no? He was actually
Yep.
captured, and he was made to appear by the Americans as having surrendered. And after 1 month of captivity inside Malacanang, pinasulat siya ng parang oath of allegiance to the United States, and then ayon sa sulat niya, ay in-encourage niya yung mga Pilipino na bumalik na lang or mag-surrender. So everyone was surrendering, and by this time, halos wala nang natitira. Okay? So you
Patay
get
na si Luna dito. Patay na at this
patay
time
na,
si
wala
Luna.
na, wala na. Okay? So, this is after his capture. Patay na rin si the boy general kung napanood yun. Okay? Sabi nito yung letter. I have received a note from Mr. Fisher informing me of your desire to have from me a memorandum relative to the origin and the growth of the Federal Party, which I accordingly have the honor to submit with great deal of pressure. Okay? You're writing to your kalaban. After the outbreak of hostilities between the Americans and Filipino troops in February 1898, those of us in Manila sought to constitute a party accepting American sovereignty.
Imagine that.
Could bring about peace and permit the Filipinos under those conditions to petition the United States for such rights and privileges as they may desire by their employment of lawful means. At that time, sort of delirium possessed all minds. Men who reasoned dispassionately were rare, and the majority, almost the entirety of Filipinos, believed that their ideas of independence were of easy realization. Okay, so now you see, there is a belief among Filipinos that they want an independence. Okay? But these people think that it is a delirium, a possession. Filipino to. And these people actually formed a political party and became our leaders. The Filipinos did not know the United States except through the proclamations and speeches and orders of the Spanish authorities. So, you see how strong the influence of the Spanish authorities to the Filipinos at the time? So they believed that they can be independent of the United States. But at that time, before the United States came, the Filipinos believed the Spanish authorities and articles published in the Spanish press, in all of which the United States were presented as a threatening peril not only to liberty but also to civilization, religion, and family. So, see this? The Filipinos daw, after they were given a propaganda letter by the Spanish authorities that the United States is a threat to all of this, the Filipinos believed them. Ano ang pinanakot sa mga Pilipino? A threat to religion, a threat to family, a threat to civilization. So why would you be threatened if you didn't have any? Okay? And actually, that was not a threat. It is what really happened. Okay? This means were also used for inculcating belief in the debility and impotence of the United States for a struggle with Filipinos. True. But you see, this was, as you are aware, the reason for the immense lack of confidence felt toward the United States by Filipinos and their feelings of absolute security that they could overcome their great adversary in a struggle. So in other words, the Filipinos underestimated the Americans because they believed the Spanish. In order to bring about peace, it was necessary to wait with patience. Very treacherous, huh? It is necessary to wait with patience and confidence for the course of events to demonstrate to the Filipinos how erroneous were their beliefs. The lesson so experienced was long and unfortunately caused the ruin of this country and many human lives. The abuses of the men who wielded power in the Philippine camp. Okay, listen to this. He's now accusing Aguinaldo. And the injustice and discontent which prevailed everywhere demonstrated the impossibility of organizing an independent government. The triumph of American arms showed that the accusation of cowardice which had been spread broadcast through the country in the name of Spanish domination was nothing but stupid calumny. And finally, the conduct of the Americans after their victory showed that they were not the cruel and wicked men they were accused of being by the Spanish civil, military, and religious authorities in official documents. So you see, the Filipinos believed the Spanish authorities in their description of the Americans. And then the Americans now came, took away the government from the Spanish. That's why the Filipinos believe that they can be independent of these Americans. This is a totally different story now. Okay? To some of us, it appeared that this was an opportune occasion for forming a political party. Andyan na yung ating mga politiko, mga friends. And the preliminaries of the preparation of our platform were enumerated. The principal civil leaders of the insurrection and some of the generals were already in Manila, some of them having surrendered and others having been captured by the Union forces, and has already acknowledged the sovereignty of the United States. This fact was favorable to the work undertaken, convincing the people that the peace was an absolute necessity and that it would be the origin and starting point of a period of justice, ano, during which liberty would gain the rights which could never be attained by force of arms. This is true. But, okay, do not forget the context of this person's claim. He said, even at the start, wala na talaga kaming tiwala dun sa aming pinaglalaban. Monsieurs de Buencamino, Dr. Frank Burns, Arguelles, Dancel, Fabi, Yanko, Torres, Arellano, and others, full of faith and confidence in their success, undertook this work. Now you have the names of the traitors. Their efforts were crowned by the convocation of a meeting which was held on 23rd day of December 1900. So that's a year before. No, just a few months before, kasi 1901 to May. Okay? In that meeting, over which Mr. Florentino Torres presided, the manifesto of the Federal Party was read, and a numerous gathering among whom members of Filipino known, okay, ito magandang punto to, known for their anti-American, okay, for their anti-American
Tendencies.
tendencies, shit.
Yung scroll sa baba.
Kaya. Kasi wala akong
Yan.
mouse. Yan. An irreconcilable attitude toward American sovereignty was informed of the nature of the platform of the party. The platform was adopted by all, and thus the Federal Party was established. Tingnan nyo.
Ganun na lang nila ginip up yung no. Anti-American tendencies.
Meron mga anti-American tendencies pero nilabas nila to yung kanilang party. Okay. I must confess, however, without desiring to offend the loyalty of anyone, that this brilliant result did not cause me a great deal of satisfaction. We were living in Manila under a military regime, and it was but reasonable to suppose that many would associate themselves with the party in order that they might not appear publicly as enemies of the American government. However, I was soon convinced that the real influence of the party and the sincerity of its members, not only on account of the rapidity of its growth in the provinces, but also by more significant fact of the surrender of arms, subsequently by many nationals the nationalists, yung mga katipunero, after acknowledging the sovereignty of the United States, identified themselves with us, declaring that they were giving up the armed struggle by reason of the powerful influences exercised over them by the Federal Party. Of these facts, Your Excellency is doubtless fully aware. Nagbubuhat na ng sariling bangko si Manong... Okay,
Si
ito yung
Manong
pamumulitika
Arthur.
ha. Ito yung
Si Manong
pamumulitika, my
Arthur.
friends ha. Ha?
Mm.
Parang, Mr. President, huwag mong kalimutan, akong responsable dyan ha. For the purpose of forming committees in the different towns. Okay, these are organizational stuff. Okay, that's not interesting. Okay, it was very possible to demonstrate their loyalty. Okay, and on 22nd February, Your Excellency had evidence of the Americanized sentiments of the federals in Manila when you were present at that memorable manifestation on the Luneta, where there were more than 7,000 men of every class of society joyfully hailed the name of Washington and rendered homage as enthusiastic as sincere to the American banner. You want to see history unfolding right before your eyes. This is the description of a person who is actually a traitor. Okay? In the journeys which the commission subsequently made to the provinces which had been obstinately insurgent, Bulacan and Bataan. Oh, yan yung mga bulwark pala ng insurgency. Hanggang ngayon, di ba? We were able to observe the time that our party had established peace and confidence among their inhabitants. On the journey made to the southern part of the archipelago by the Civil Commission, in which I was invited to join them as president of the Federal Party, the Honorable Commission saw, and you have also been informed, no doubt, of the same thing by your military subordinates, that our supporters have done all they could or should do to assist the work of the government. Okay? So now let's move forward. Mhm. The history of the American people, the aptitude of Filipinos for civilization, and the observation of events which have taken place in the Philippines from 1896 to the present time justify the assertion that the Americanization of the Philippines will be more rapid than is believed by the most optimistic, and that as a consequence of the triumph of the ideal of our federal party will be complete. Okay, wait ha. Take note. They say here, the aptitude of Filipinos for civilization. So kung hindi tayo pinag-aral ng mga Kastila, wala tayong aptitude for civilization. Because this is sociology, no? So in sociology, you will know that a civilized person will need that a barbaric person will have to be educated first.
Civilized.
Barbaric
Educated.
community educated first before they can develop that aptitude for civilization. And the observation of events, right? Wait, Colombian, okay. Okay. There are people here who talked about, the South American experience, right? The Federal Party believes in America. It believes in the Philippines. It rests assured that America, in a day not far distant, hindi niya alam, 50 years later, will give the Filipinos all the rights which are enjoyed by the inhabitants of the Columbian continent. Columbus ba to? No? Columbian continent yung sinasabi niya, yung discovered by Columbus. Kasi yun yung pagkakalamatan natin kasi
North
si
America.
Columbus, no, because si Columbus was a Spanish, di ba? Explorer. So maybe that is how they referred to the South America during the Spanish time, the Columbian continent. And also trust that Filipinos, within a very short time, will realize their true interest and will enter without reserve or suspicion upon the path which the Federal Party has pointed out to them. Huh? Or suspicion, huh? Suspicious pala ito yung ginagawa, my friend. Inspired in the American spirit, adopting the English language, reading and thinking as Americans, unto them it is given to demonstrate sooner or later to the Republic of the United States that they are capable and worthy of forming part of the Great Federation. So yung mga sinasabi kanina na Rizal was aspiring to become a province of the United States, of Spain.
It is.
No, province of Spain. What is a province of Spain, by the way? Because we had provinces here which
Yeah.
had gobernadorcillos and alcaldes mayor.
Mm.
We were already organized politically. Okay, wait, ha? So itong gunggong na ito, sino ba to? Sino ba to? Sino itong gunggong na ito? Okay, ha? Move ko lang konti. Nakikita niyo pa rin ba?
Mm.
Okay. Okay. So, this is another history of their inception, ha? Pakinggan nyo to. Itong part lang na to. I'll just read the first part, ha? In June of 1898, the inception of the Federal Party. Okay, this is another letter. Teka, tingnan naman natin so sino yung nagsulat ng... Yan. There you are. His name.
Pardo de Tapera.
Okay, the Honorable Pardo de Tavera, who becomes what? Senator?
Ano nga yung pangalan niya dyan? H? Sino yan siya?
Ha?
Sino yan siya? Pardo de Tavera is the family name.
Hmm.
Si, ano nga ang pangalan
Ang
ito?
alam natin si Mita Pardo de Tavera, yung babae. Pero yan
Eh?
yung...
Yeah. Oh, hold on.
Okay.
H. Pardo de
Ah.
Tavera. Sige, go ahead and just...
Okay. Now, so in another letter, this is how they describe, in June of 1898. So this is the time that Emilio Aguinaldo was waving the Philippine flag. They were preparing the national anthem. Don Cayetano Arellano addressed Don Felipe Poncalmino and Don Ambrosio Rianzas Bautista a letter written from the town of Pangasinan, province of Laguna, Pagsanhan, province of Laguna, in reply to one addressed to him by those two gentlemen. In this letter, Don Cayetano outlined the idea of union with the United States. Isipin mo this is June of 1898 when we declared our independence. Avoid
Ito si,
or doing...
itong sumulat nito, saglit lang Ang sumulat nito ay si Trinidad H. Pardo de Tavera. Ito siya, si Trinidad Hermenegildo Jose Maria Juan Francisco Pardo de Tavera Egurico.
What did he
Ay
become?
isang doktor, Filipino physician, historian, and politician. Ang
Historian,
kanyang nationality, hindi citizenship, nationality is Spanish and Portuguese.
Okay.
He's
Again.
not
Okay.
even, white
What is
pass.
your source? What is your source?
Yan
What
siya,
is your source?
Ginugol ko siya.
Okay.
Teka.
Which brings me to my point when I was discussing with Attorney Trixie what was our nationality, what was our citizenship at the time? Because in the Constitution of Spain, we were Spanish. And even if you read that in the Treaty of Paris, they're referring to us as their citizens. Okay, avoid all doing and undoing. And when America has established a stable order of affairs, then it will be time enough to make laws. Wow! Ano po? Parang volume. Mabini.
Tumaydor na to si Lobo.
First day, June. Mabini, whose influence at that time was in the ascent in Aguinaldo's government, paid no heed to this advice. In October 1898, while the Philippine government was established in Malolos, before Congress had promulgated a Philippine Constitution, Monsieurs Arellano and Pardo, siya din ba to, si Pardo? Still more earnestly advocated union with America. The first Secretary of Foreign Affairs. Okay, so you see how these people are, and then, okay, let me just go to their proposed, yung kanilang party platform, because it's very, very nice. There are more names here, and then their platform first. Okay, this one. Okay, sino itong mga naka-memorize nung high school ng mga dahilan kung bakit ang ating mga katipunero ay nag-aklas sa Espanya, no? So, hindi natin siya nakita sa dokumento ng mga katipunero. Pero tingnan natin dito, First, the recognition of the sovereignty of the United States. Platform of the Federal Party adopted. The recognition of the sovereignty of the United States, which shall be represented in the islands by a liberal, democratic, and representative government. Aha, nangangarap na sila na mapupunta na sa kanila. This is the start of neocolonialism. Okay? Individual rights, liberties, and the guarantee of personal rights, the rights of property and the home with liberty in the matters of religion, and entire separation of church and state. Oh, so kaya pala, months before when they were making the Malolos Constitution, it took them days discussing the separation of the church and state. But these people were the ones who are really pro separation of the church and state. Without peace, the enjoyment of individual rights, liberties, and guarantees to which every educated citizen is entitled would be impossible. Ibig sabihin, itong mga, naman tawag dito, ilustrado, sila lang ang
Ilustrao.
merong liberty, sila lang ang merong right and guarantees. Kasi yung educated, okay, ito yung ano ko, which I still want to dig deeper, yung definition of educated.
Meron akong ipapakita saglit pagkatapos mo.
Yeah, because this is the last part naman. No?
Sige, go ahead,
Okay?
go ahead.
So, would be impossible, and consequently, the founders of this party promised to cooperate with the established government using all the means in their power to procure the pacification of the country. Procure talaga, ha? Bibilhin mo, ha? In order, ba't mo yan? In order that the Filipinos in arms may acknowledge said government as their resistance is bringing this country to ruin and desolation, and gives rise to the commission of multitude of crimes and abuses which discredit the Philippine people in the sight of the civilized nations. Oh, so ibig sabihin, kung meron tayong mawawalang kredibilidad being civilized at that time because of some acts, therefore prior to this, we were being seen by the rest of the world as a civilized people. The Philippine people in the sight of the world before has been civilized, not barbaric, not ignorant, as claimed later on as the need for Americans to put up schools that the Spaniards never put up. My golly, there are 2,000 schools when they arrived. Okay, so municipal government, blah, 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 the constitutional period, and then, okay, the Senate, blah, blah, blah. All right. So, the recognition of all rights inherent in property, which are inheritable and transferable, such as absolute titles, annuities, easements, and mortgages, and of such rights as may arise or originate from the acts of persons provided in said acts are performed in conformity with justice and the laws in force at the time when they were performed, and conform to the decisions of the Supreme Court of the United States in similar cases which have arisen since the War of Secession. Okay, so the concept that we had properties is here prior to their right. Huh? Okay, so the party declares that it accepts and approves the statements made to the Philippine people by the commission presided by Mr. Sherman, and by that presided over by Mr. Taft. Okay? Oh, okay. Here. Ito yung pangarap daw ni Rizal na ang Pilipinas ay gawing probinsya ng Espanya.
Probinsya ng Espanya.
Ito. The territory of Philippine Islands may be considered as one of the states of the Union, but they shall never be ceded as a whole or in part by the United States to any foreign power. There you go. Ito yung pangarap ni Rizal against Spain. Okay. The foregoing pages constitutes the concrete aims and objectives of this party.
Tuta ng kano.
Ito dapat ang kalaban niya, no? Ni Renato Reyes. Okay, so you see, this is just 1901. But you will see from their own admissions that they were traitors of the Filipino cause, and they are also here admitting that the Filipino people really wanted to be free from America. And before that, they believed their Spanish colonial enslaver, berdugong mga abusadong buwisit, diba? So, you see where the freedom comes from? This is just an example of that.
Hmm. Ito ang papakita ko sa inyo.
Okay, I will end screen. Stop sharing. Okay, go.
Ito ha. Itong bagay na to.
Mm.
This is an article by Antoinette Pidet Ugay.
Mm.
This is published by the
When?
NHCP, National Historical Commission of the Philippines. Sila itong
Ah,
ating primary agency that
ah,
is regulating ba tawag dyan? The history,
protecting. Protecting.
stories and history of
Okay.
this country.
Mm.
Okay. Ito yung dalawang storya about the Cavite Mutiny. Okay, one story was written was reported by two Spaniards, si Izquierda, ano to, si Vidal and Rafael Izquierdo. Okay, yan yung
Mm.
silang dalawa. And the other one is the Filipino point of view
Mm.
about that same story, about that same event, was written by Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Tavera, the
The,
traitor that
yeah,
JP is about
the
here.
great guy, the
Uh,
great guy, the great guy.
Americans. Okay. Yan, sabi niya dito, may nangyari na yung Cavite Mutiny nga. Okay? Teka muna. Naririnig niyo ba to pagka pinagsalita ko to siya?
Wala, wala, wala.
Hindi niyo naririnig?
Wala. No sound, no sound, no sound. No
Okay.
sound. Okay, okay. Diretso mo
Hindi
na lang sa...
naririnig. Basahin niyo na lang.
Okay, so...
Okay, mabilisan lang.
ano
Okay.
eh?
12th of June of every year since 1898 is an important event, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The two major events happened in 1872. First was the 1872 Cavite Mutiny and the other was the martyrdom of the three martyr priests sa Gumbursa. So ito ngayon yung dalawang basis or justification for the establishment or the mounting of the Philippine Revolution. Nakatipunan is just part of that revolution. It's not the revolution itself. Parte lang yan siya dyan. But these are the two things that historians use to justify the revolution. Okay? Yan yung Cavite Mutiny and the martyrdom of the Gumbursa. Ito yung storya ngayon of the same event, Cavite Mutiny, by the Spaniards. Ito, si Montero Vidal at saka si Rafael Izquierdo. Okay, ang kanilang sinasabi is this. Meanwhile, highlighted as an attempt, okay, they cited what happened in Cavite Mutiny as an attempt of the Indios to overthrow Spanish government in the Philippines. Sabi naman ni Governor General Rafael Izquierdo, who was the Governor General, he was like the president of this country. Official report magnified the event and made use of it to implicate native clergy. So ito si Rafael Izquierdo ang dahilan kung bakit nadamay yung tatlong pare dito sa usaping to, which was then active in the call for secularization. The two accounts complemented and corroborated with one another, only that the general's report was more spiteful. Initially, both Montero and Izquierdo scored out that the abolition of privileges enjoyed by the workers of Cavite, arsenals such as non-payment of tributes and exemption from forced labor, were the main reasons of the revolution, as how they called it. However, other causes were enumerated by them, these two people, including the Spanish Revolution, which overthrew the secular throne. So now, lumalabas na itong other contextual statements of what was then prevailing about Spain. And these two persons said this could have contributed to the decision that magrevolusyon ang mga Indio. Ito yon. So ang una daw ay yung non-payment o ay yung kanilang privileges na tinanggal. Kasi meron silang privileges doon sa Cavite na hindi sila magbabayad ng tributes at may exemption sila from policy servicios. This is exactly what they're talking about. Okay? Other causes were enumerated, including the Spanish Revolution. So, merong revolution doon there. Spain is weak. Dirty propagandas proliferated by restrained press, democratic, liberal, and Republican books and pamphlets reaching the Philippines. These are the stories of the French Revolution, other books coming from mainland Europe, like the books of John Locke and Rousseau and Hobbes, the three theorists of social contract. Ito, dumating yan dito sa Pilipinas, and these two consider those books as propaganda materials. Okay? Kasi ito yung mga binasa ni Rizal at saka ni Mabini eh. They were reading these things at the time. So these are the things that contributed to the decision by the Indios to mount a revolution. Okay? And most importantly, the presence of the native clergy who out of animosity against the Spanish friars, conspired and supported the rebels and enemies of Spain. Okay, so they just had to connect these two things: the secular priest, tatlong bursa, and the rebels, by saying na sinusuportahan tong ng mga pare dahil they hate the Spanish friars, whom they think is involved in the policy making of the government of Spain here in this country. But there is no proof of that na nangingialam yung mga friars sa pagpapatakbo ng gobyerno ng Spanya dito sa Pilipinas. But these two people posited that. They invented that. They made that story.
Or maybe a story is made out of them.
Pwede rin. Somebody else later on said about this of them. Okay? But this is how they drawn the reason for the revolution. These are the two Spaniards that report to Spain.
What is the source, Blair and Robertson?
Ito? Ayan, si Cruz-Angeles.
No, the source of her material.
I think she was reading in the original, yung kay Montero, Vidal, and Izquierdo,
because
these are
most of
public
this, there is a criticism against the Blair and Robertson materials, which is now so voluminous, which is now the source of all our history. Kasi English na siya. Okay? And the translations daw dyan sa Blair and Robertson was done by Miss Blair, who doesn't know how to speak Spanish.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So anyway, what does what is the other traitor saying?
Okay. So consequently,
when the news.
Ay, di. Ito pa pala, may dagdag pa kung bakit na bad trip na daw mga Indio at nag-revolusyon na. Dinisolve daw ni Izquierdo ang native regiments of artillery and ordered creation of artillery force to be composed exclusively of peninsulares. So ito yung mga Pilipino na pinanganak sa Spain. Ay, mga Pilipino, mga tao. Which are really, of course, Spaniards, peninsulares. On 17th Feb 1872, in an attempt of the Spanish government and Frailocracia, the Fraile government, to instill fear among the Filipinos so that they never commit such daring act again, the Gumburza were executed. This is now the story. Na para daw hindi magrebelde ang mga Indio, ay pinatay yung Gumburza. But was that really the story? Was that really the reason why the Gumburza were killed? Okay? But this is the story of Izquierdo and Vidal, itong Montero. Okay, ito yung storya ng mga Pilipino about that. And the one who wrote this is the traitor that we just talked about.
Wait. Can you go back? Can you go back
Maybe
to that?
not a traitor, but really good friends with the Americans.
Okay. Meron lang akong
Sige,
ilagay
go.
niyo sa inyong consciousness, yung Marianas Islands. Put that in your consciousness. Many times, alalahanin niyo yan, Marianas Islands. Marianas Islands. Later on in our discussions, this will become very, very relevant. Okay? Huwag niyo kalimutan.
Tapusin muna yung pagbasa nito dahil nandiyan na yung crab sa labas.
Game.
Sige.
Okay? On the 17th of... hindi ko ma-move yan, pre. Okay. So si ano natin to, ito yung ating kaibigang tridor, si Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo Pardo de Tavera, a Filipino scholar and researcher, wrote the Filipino version of the bloody incident in Cavite. In his point of view, the incident was a mere mutiny by the native Filipino soldiers and laborers of the Cavite. And sana yun, no, wala. Ahmed, hindi ko nagagalaw yan. Wala akong control dyan. Okay. Anyway, so this is an example of those stories that are being told to us by our institutions now, because this is also what they are taught. Tama ba? Tinuro lang din naman sa kanila, no? So I remember Gumburza, sabi niya, no, ni Gomez Burgos Zamora, mga paring bayani according to our history books. Yes, Blo. Oh, did you know that they're one of the major causes of this revolution? Okay, so yes, I can hear. Tavera, one of many Filipino, ano yung Quisling? Okay, True Lies. Si Truelis. Okay, at dun Argus Troy. Meron akong nabasa article na too premature ang pagkakagrant sa atin ng mga kano. Napamunuan natin, mga Pilipino, ang sariling pamahalaan. Why would that be? Uh, what was the length? This is another question, ha? What was that length of time that was bided by the Americans before they decided, despite na meron ng batas, meron na tayong Constitution of 1935, meron na tayong 1936 ba yan? 1936 na Constitution, and then we had our own legislature. Nakapag-practice na tayo. Meron na tayong edukadong tao at meron na rin tayong magandang ekonomiya. So why didn't they grant us that independence? What's the end in mind po? Why we have to review the past events? Will it still have an impact in the present? Alam mo, VJ, if you do not understand how people with shared understanding of their culture act, then you will not, you will never be able to grasp the concept of yung cultural unity na magiging binding force either for protection or for development or for alam mo yun, yung una na lang yung sa usaping pagnanakaw sa gobyerno, di ba? Why will you steal from the public's money when you are part of that? Pangalawa, we already gave this example. Look at Ukraine. Did you see their president pleading to their people before the war to defend their country? No need. Pero tayo, why would you like to march and learn how to use firearm and mag-ROTC? Wala yan. Tigil yan. Despite threats that we may be facing potential war soon. Sino ba last na mga training? Kami ang last na nag-ROTC 1 year batch sa amin, 1 year lower. And how old are we? Kami ang pinakahuling nag-ROTC. Pag nagkagera, alam nyo kung paano gumamit ng baril? Alam nyo kung paano sumunod ng order? Harap sa kaliwa, harap sa kanan? At magmarcha? Can you imagine what it is to be marching and wielding guns in formation? Pag nagkagera tayo, wala tayong pakialam. But look at Israelis. They are so conscious of their identity, and they will be proud to spend that 2 years of mandatory service. Koreans, sino mga mahilig sa mga Korean na mga ano natin, mga ano ba tawag nila? K-pop, K-pop. Oh, K-pop. Your stars have to go on leave whenever they have to comply with that 2 years. Why do they feel, alam mo yun, proud when they do that? Because they know that they're doing it for their country. They know, and they don't need to be told why they need to do it. Now, anytime we need to go to war, we need. They know that they have to be prepared to share that burden with his ako Korean, artista man ako hindi. Gets nyo ba yun? So, us not understanding the reasons why our heroes really fought, us not understanding what really transpired, why Spain really fell, we'll never be able to learn how to run this government in case situations that already happened before happen again.
Yep.
Kaya history repeats itself. Kasi these learnings, ano to isipin mo yung wealth na pinakawalan natin. Kasi parang ganito, sa tindi ng pinicture sa atin na kademonyuhan ng mga Espanyol, you do not want to go into that 300 years. You do not want to look at the 300 years. So imagine all the experiences in those 300 years. Ang dami natin matututunan doon about how to, ang daming failures, ang daming successes, yung iba makikita natin.
May tanong si JB.
What's the end in mind? Okay nga, yan nga yung sinasagot ko. No?
Yan ba yan?
We are
Question.
We need to question this. We don't have the answers na full. Okay? Kami ni Ahmed, we are not historians na mag-establish the story para sa inyo. But we can litigate against the truth of this history that you are that we have all been taught. Biktima din naman kami. Biktima din kayo kung Pilipino kayo. We were exposed to the same history. And you cannot blame your teachers. We cannot blame our principals or their parents because they were also victims of this life.
So what is the practical application of all these things that we are doing? It has something to do with, if we are going to be united, we have to have a critical understanding of what is supposed to unite us. And if it's history that is supposed to unite us, we have to look at history critically. We don't just accept it like that as given to us like lessons in school, but we have to think of it and question it. Okay? Kagaya ng isang definition kanina, it is the relationship, the constant questioning of the past events in order to understand the present. So, if we stop questioning what we know of the past, we will never understand what's going on now. And what's going on now is this vacuum of unity. And there has to be unity for us to go on, forge on together as a nation. But since there's a vacuum there, we have to fill that. And filling that now is our obligation. And how do we do that? We look at our history, we interrogate it, we cross-examine it, so that we will find certain facts that will somehow make it complete for us, so that we can justify it to ourselves that this is a good reason for unity. Okay? And not what somebody told us, not what some other country told us, but our own convincing discovery of who and what we are.
Okay.
Yun lang yun.
Ito, not too far away from our history. Not too far away. Masyadong malayo yung 1898, di ba? Then let's just look at 2 days ago. Okay? 2 days ago. Terne, can you share this screen?
Yeah. Which one is it? This one?
May screen ako na sinishare. Okay,
That
this
one?
is from, okay. May sinishare ako na screen. Nakashare na?
Yan.
Okay. So, okay. We need to look at source documents, di ba? Like what we just did, no? We don't just take the description. Ito yung technical application yung pinag-usapan natin, ha? So, art kasi yung gumawa ka ng history. Art din yung gagawa ka ng news article, di ba? Art yung gagawa ka ng publication about Maria Ressa. But there is such a document which establishes the facts. The facts, as we have said earlier, is done by a, by a court. And the facts in this case, if you want to know how to get a copy of this case, you just go to the, hey, ano ko ha, walk ko kayo step by step. You go to this website of Court of Appeals, judiciary.gov.ph. You click this one here called Latest Decisions and Resolutions. And then lalabas yan. And there is that case. And then you open that PDF and here it is. In this case, you will see the facts. The fact. What did they write? What did they publish? And when did they publish that? Okay? Tingnan nyo, February 19, 2014, the above-named accused did then and there willfully, unlawfully, and knowingly republish an article entitled CJ using SUV of controversial businessman. Okay, so I do not want to add into the libel against this person. No, I do not want to be rebroadcasting their lies or reading their lies, but their lies you can read here. Okay, I don't wanna destroy this person's credibility any more than Rappler did. So all of these findings repeat the findings of the judge. The judge dun sa baba, yun ang original na nagdesisyon nito sa court, regional trial court na nagsintensya kay Maria Ressa, and all of the controversial things na walang katotohanan. So you will see the Court of Appeals repeating the decision of a judge. A judge that has been painted by our media as possibly corrupt. Why would three justices make this? Attorney Ahmed, Attorney Ahmed, nandiyan ka ba? Kasi hindi kita nakikita eh.
Nagugas pa ako.
Hindi. But, di ba? Just tell these people how infrequent it happens na ang isang decision, alam mo yun, almost copies the entire decision from a judge sa galing sa Court of Appeals.
Well, yes. That is very seldom
Oo. Di ba?
na
Isang,
nabitin yung halos.
ito halos word for, ayan, buyan, quotation siya lahat ng decision galing siya. So, yung the nation of facts, okay, up to the decision is covered by this. So now, with these facts out in a public document, kasi ito, publication din itong ginawa ng Court of Appeals dahil any document that is published by a government website is official public document. So yung kumalat dati na kopya, na scanned document ng decision nitong judge, hindi yun official. Hindi yun siya pwedeng panghawakan unless i-certify yun ng korte na yun yung totoong kopya. But this one is no longer questionable in terms of validity because this is an official copy of a court sanctioned decision. Isipin mo ko ilang assignment of errors, 10 assignments of errors. Yun yung kanilang kiniklaim na dahilan kung bakit mali yung trial court hearing. Sabi ng Court of Appeals, the appeal has no merit. In other words, where does the world's media come in now? With their claims that Maria Ressa is being persecuted then by Duterte government and now by BBM. Ha? Paano mo ngayon yan i-justify? So there are really people who are just making up stories to destroy a central government. No. Is there a problem with destroying a central government? Well, we saw one in 1986. Di ba? How many times did it happen in Spain? If we want to look back in history, we do not know because we were not given that part of our history. Okay? So this is a practical application of our lesson for tonight, my friends, that there are things called facts, and all the rest are art. If you want facts, you go to court decisions. If you want truthful narrations of events, you go search for writings that were never even intended to be written for distribution,
Or
like
publish.
to be published, like letters, letters that you sent to the Governor General of the Philippines, which is now attached to his report to Washington. And after ilan ba, 75 years, it becomes public record. Hindi na siya nakatago. Now we have all of this. Okay, now, so now we are able now to see, oh my, the historian that was referred to, balik mo yung description ng NCAA kay ano? Sino yun? Thompson?
NHCP?
Oh, yung NHCP.
Filipino
Alisin mo na
score.
sa akin. Yeah, how
Okay.
did they describe this great Filipino?
Here it is. Hold on.
The great Filipino traitor who,
Uh,
since the time of the Americans' arrival, was already planning to, alam mo yun, it's okay. After, natalo na yung ano eh, di ba? So after that, it's okay. Hindi naman yun katraidoran ng mga Pilipino. Eh. Wala nang katipu, wala na yung resistance, di ba? Pero yung isulat mo sa letter mo na simulat sa pool, wala talaga akong tiwala dyan sa grupo na yan. Gusto ko na talagang mag-ano sa inyo. That is an admission of not only a traitor. Ano yung description sa kanya? Oh, yun, doktor. Tama, nilagpasan mo. Doktor.
yan. Sorry.
Ha?
Yan.
Oo, yan. How is he described by NCAA?
Who wrote the Filipino version of blood incident in his point of view. Meron bang description dito?
Hindi, ito yan, no? Scholar.
Yung kanina yung pinasa ko was from
Nasa
Yeah.
pinakaibabaw. Dr. Trinidad Hermenegildo
a Filipino scholar and researcher.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. Filipino scholar and researcher.
Doktor siya, ha? Doctor as in medical doctor. Physician.
Now, would you believe this his claims here that indirectly blame whoever? I mean, he already lied to Aguinaldo by being in his cabinet, being in Malolos, when in fact his allegiance from the very beginning was with the Americans. And then you believe him in whatever he writes in our history. Ha? Di ba, my friends? So, yan yung ating maray na banggi sa Indogabos dyan sa Bicol at galing sa Quezon Province. So, yan yung ating lesson for tonight. Merong application to understand what a story is, what art is, and legitimate naman yung art. It's legitimate. And what facts are and where to find them. This one is a story. Ito, no? This one is a story. Tama? Ahmed, yung example na yan, yung kay NCAA, is it a story or what? What is this? What's the category of this? Kasi official to eh. Med, Hoy, naririnig mo pa ba ako? Hoy. Hello? Hindi nata nakakarinig to. Anyway, do you still hear me? So, magandang gabi na ata sa inyo lahat. No?
Yeah, now I can hear you. Kanina kasi
Okay.
nawala eh.
So this document you're giving here is an example of a historical account. Because this is not historical, interpretative history. Kasi this is written by a modern person interpreting the history of the past. No? Yeah.
Yes, so this is another example of how history is written by people, and not only like, or in the way that we describe it, like it's a description, okay, a neutral description of what you perceive at the time you are writing, but also by some people who were not there when these events happened, but who learned somehow of how these events happen and what events happen, and then applying applying certain techniques like writing techniques,
Mm,
okay, made it a story to be told to us. And
mm,
in that process, there is always uh, the factor or the factor of interpretation, which is now value laden, value laden meaning biased.
mhm,
Okay, because it's always affected by how independently of the story that we are trying to tell, we were brought up, how what we learned when we were growing up, and what we are learning still right now as this person writes this story. So
mm,
interpretation puts so much importance in history, but also so much vagueness in terms of whether or not it is true or absolutely the only one proper account of some things. Okay? So, kung pinapakita natin dito is, history is almost always marred by the possibility that bias is written all over the place in that story. Okay, and that is why there is always a need for us to critically cross-examine this every story that comes out of history. Yan yung importansya natin dito ng
mm.
discussion na to. Okay?
Pero yun alalahanin niyo yung yung distinction between a primary document na katulad nung pinresent natin kanina. It comes from the time it is written by the person who is saying what happened to him or what was his opinion. And then there is that yung yun namang claims, no, like what you hear in the media, na ito yung nangyayari sa Pilipinas, that journalists are being persecuted and there is no freedom of the
Right.
press, and then that Duterte and now BBM is oppressing Maria Ressa. You go to the other side of the story, which is now where the facts are actually legitimately established. Because, okay, huwag niyo kalimutan, there is only one institution. It's not the fact checkers who can establish a fact, it's the court.
The court.
Okay? Just the court, wala na iba. But if they would like to be, to ano,
Pretentious.
to be pretentious and just say that they have the authority to do that, so be it if they want to. Diba? But go to the fact in the case. This last example is an example of what we really have in our table usually when we study history. Interpretations of interpretations of interpretations of other people's work. So be
Yep.
careful with those things. Yun ang love story. Yan.
Ngayon,
Okay?
makita niyo kung if this live stream tonight makes sense to you, then it is
Sa,
also making sense to us. And this is the first time that we
we talk about
see
even the content.
Oo,
Okay?
content ngayon ko lang ginugol to at ngayon ko lang sila nahanap, and
Ah,
still it supports our what we are talking about. So
yeah.
this is what I want to happen when we have a live stream here in Luminous and in Wantangkal. That we are conversing and coming up with a conclusion that's probably hypothetical or
Helpful.
even real, but always helpful in our rearrangement of things in our head so that we can better come up
Yeah.
with decisions.
Saan nagkakaroon tayo ng tools, di ba? From now, no, nothing kanina, there are just a rumble of papers. Now we see an organized way of understanding it. Nice.
Yes.
Did you like
All right.
that, guys? Stars,
Okay.
stars,
So,
stars.
stars. JR Junior JR
Okay,
Man.
yeah.
I am
Welcome
from
muna tayo sa kanya.
Davao. I am from Tagum,
Mhm.
province of Davao. My father is from Dapitan in Dipolog, but we have roots in Siquijor and probably in Laguna.
Mhm.
That's the answer.
Si Paparazzi, Pinoy Paparazzi. Did you like this discussion? Pinoy Paparazzi?
Yeah, yeah,
Ah,
yeah. What's that?
yan. We're not making any effort at all. Yeah, we're just showing you some of the things that we have here that are so voluminous that we're so afraid now of our safety. Hindi because pinipersecute ng mga press dito sa Pilipinas. Thank you, Narda.
Maraming salamat po
Natatakot
sa
na talaga kami
pagpapanood.
sa aming kaligtasan. Nakakatakot kasi ang katotohanan eh. Ipe-persecute ka ng gobyerno. Ha? Mga friends? Ay nako. Good night and I love you
Good night,
all.
good night. Thank you for watching, and
Stars,
I
stars,
hope
stars.
we hope that you watch us again tomorrow if there's one. We are going to come up with one tomorrow, just like this,
Ano,
impromptu.
iba. Merong nang request sa akin na topic, the Chinese during the Spanish times.
Okay, sige, mag-aaral ako tungkol dyan.
The
And
Chinese
again,
times.
this story, this discussion would be impromptu. We will not be preparing this, and we will not be agreeing this beforehand.
Wala.
This
Walang
is
daya. Walang
All right.
daya. Good
Okay.
night,
Thank
good
you
night.
very much, and good night to all of you. I
Buenos
hope you learned
dias.
something tonight.
The Lord be with you. Peace be with you.
May
Amen.
Lord
Bye.
bayan ng Diyos.
Music.
Music. Where is that music?
Music.
There you go.